What's up everybody, welcome to Athens, home of the Greek food. If you want to chow down on some Mediterranean munchies, you've come to the right place. What we got here is a metabolic masterpiece of downright Homeric proportions, and to be perfectly honest, I think it's pretty nice. So grab yourself a treat and take yourself a seat because the show is about to begin. So I was cruising around the birthplace of Western democracy, feeling those ancient vibes from a buck-wild Greco-Roman past. I saw my fair share of decapitated statues and saw a whole lot of crazy-ass colonnades. But all that strolling and patrolling was making me feel pretty hungry, so I decided I'd best be getting myself some Greek eats. So I sprinted on inside the nearest restaurant I could see and ordered the first item on the menu that had the word Greek in the name. Little thing I like to call the Greek salad. I mean, I don't exactly know that much about Greek food, but if it has the word Greek in the name, you know it's gotta be authentic, so I took myself a spoonful and whoa. That's some firm feta right there. I think I don't need a spoon so much as I need a steak knife, but nevertheless, I did get myself a few crumbles. Then I started shoveling those feta and veggie chunks onto my temporary loading dock, aka my plate. And truth be told, the visual contrast of those colors was getting me pretty excited, borderline aroused, but I didn't want to show it. Much like Zeno of Citium, I wanted to remain outwardly calm and all stoic-like. So I calmly and collectedly took myself a magnificent nibble, and whoa. That feta was firm and fresh, those vegetables were zesty as hell, and those capers were plump to the max. But what really stole the show was that olive oil. That oil was so soft and smooth that I could have sworn it was pressed by the Olympian gods themselves, baby. So after some self-reflection and introspection, I decided it was high time to get myself another Greek eat, a little thing called the lamb souvlaki. Here we got some jumbo lamb chunks jammed onto a skewer with some nice vegetable hunks. We also got us a high-octane dollop of that tzatziki sauce, which is looking pretty nice if you ask me, so I think I might as well take myself a dip. Word around the campfires, this sauce is based on yogurt, olive oil, and cucumbers with the occasional herbs and spices thrown into the mix. So after staring at that meat chunk in a dazed stupor, I took myself a bite and holy hoplite dogs. Much like the enlightened escapee in Plato's allegory of the cave, that single bite made me feel like I was seeing reality for the very first time. That herb-infused meat coupled with that cool cucumber sauce was a mighty fine treat. I'll even go on ahead and say it was tasting pretty nostimo, which means delicious in Greek, in case you were wondering. So after savagely biting down on those meat bits, I figured it was high time to try out some Yemista, also known as the Greek stuffed peppers and tomatoes. These puppies are filled to the brim with a chopped vegetable and rice combo slathered in a whole lot of olive oil and jammed into an oven, then they're baked into a little slice of Hellenistic heaven. Now, as Socrates once said, the unexamined life ain't worth living, and I couldn't agree more. Mind you, I don't really know what that has to do with this eating experience, but it's a pretty nice quote, so I figured I'd just slide it on in there. Anyway, as you can plainly see, I'm chomping these yummy stumps down, and I gotta admit, each soft and savory olive oil soaked bite is making me feel like a demigod. If only I could have 300 of these yummy stumps, there's no telling what kind of legendary tasks I could accomplish. But seeing as how I only had 2, these buck-wild buttery potatoes aren't a bad substitute. Those lightly browned wedges were baked to perfection, and I think it's safe to say that even Leonidas himself would be proud to take a bite. So after chowing down like a wild man possessed, I thought it was high time to try out another divine Greek delicacy, a little thing called the Dolmades. Here we got some dill and mint, chopped vegetables, and steamed rice jammed inside a grapevine leaf. Next up, they drizzle those rascals with a little virgin olive oil and top it off with some of that tzatziki cucumber sauce you've come to know and love. So I carefully relocated some of that tzatziki directly on top of its long-lost food companion, and after a momentary glance, I took a chance and shoved that magnificent morsel down my throat. And oh my Athena, what was that? That was tasting both edible and incredible, and I was trying to figure out why it tasted so good. Much like Hypatia of Alexandria, I started analyzing those Dolmades at a downright mathematical level. I tried to calculate that grape leaf tanginess against that cucumber sauce coolness, then I threw in an olive oil and dill denominator, but it still just wasn't quite right. Nevertheless, even for me, it was plain to see that that nostimo level was off the charts. Which brings us to our next Greek food item, a little thing called the moussaka. What we got here is some ground beef cooked up in a tomato-based sauce and layered with some eggplant and potato slices. Then it's covered with a white bechamel sauce and baked up into something that seems to me like the Greek version of shepherd's pie. I don't really know what to expect from this meal, but just looking at it is filling me with a downright Herculean hunger. So with the scientific scrutiny of Archimedes, I examined a piece of that pie. Then I took myself an inquisitive bite. And that tomato-infused meat combined with that semi-solidified white sauce was making me feel like a bouse. It tasted like the kind of comfort food you could enjoy mid-Sapporo sip, and I think it's safe to say I'm getting back to my roots over here, baby cakes. Granted, I have zero actual Greek ancestry, but somehow, some way, I feel that with each passing bite, I actually am becoming Greek. So after shoving food toward my face with a little style and grace, I moved on to the next local delicacy. Here we got a little thing I like to call the Greek kebab. What we got here is some minced and spiced lamb meat that was thrown onto a grill, and just seeing it slathered in that yogurt is giving me a thrill. So with the single-minded will and determination of Theodorus Kolokotronis, I started cutting into that kebabi. I got myself a little more yogurt and tomato on that bite for good measure. Then after carefully contemplating the meaning of life, I took myself a chomp. And oh my Oracle of Delphi. Those yogurt kebabis were tasting so good that I decided to get myself another version, a little something something known as the pita platter plate. This is another great way to enjoy those kebabs in more of a feast format. It comes with a whole lot of fries and fixins on the side, and the mere sight of it is making me feel erratic and Socratic. I'm feeling chronic and platonic, and each buck-wild bite is making me feel both barbaric yet Homeric. I don't really know what kind of point I'm trying to get across here, but the main idea is that food was tasting a real nice. So the next food item I tried out was a famous side dish called tabbouleh. Now this ain't exactly traditional Greek food because I think it comes somewhere from the Levant, but there's no denying that this is in fact the Greek version of tabbouleh, and I'm getting mighty excited to try it out. I mean, after all, this is my first time trying some of these foods, so do have a little sympathy. I know there's usually some food Nazis just waiting to pounce when I make the smallest mistake, but much like that freedom fighter Apostolos Sadas, I want to make sure that I'm gonna rebel against those food Nazis at every turn. So I scooped up that bulgur wheat, chopped cucumber and parsley, and olive oil rich concoction and shoved it onto a piece of pita bread. And while maintaining an open-minded and inclusive definition of Greek food, I took myself a nimble nibble. And oh my Aphrodite! That bulgur is practically bursting with a deep olive oil flavor, fresh lemon juice, and herbal stylings. But unlike Aphrodite, I'd say this food ain't so much love at first sight as it is love at first bite. Which brings us to our next authentically Greek food, a little thing called the Greek pizza. I'm telling you here, baby, as soon as my plane arrived in Athens, I was chomping at the bit to chow down on one of these puppies. I mean, are you seeing what I'm seeing here, people? Because I'm pretty sure I'm seeing some fresh feta chunks, some black olive action, some red onion and bell pepper slices, and some cherry tomato dices. And after some serious nostimo anticipation, I took myself a bite. And wow, just wow, holy Hermes. Aristotle is attributed to have said that the whole is greater than the sum of its parts, and I think he hit the nail on the head with that one. Taken individually, each ingredient ain't worth writing home about, but once combined, they create a polytheistic pantheon of flavors. I guess what I'm trying to say in a roundabout way is that pizza changed my life, presumably for the better. Which brings us to a magnificent meat-based meal, a little thing called the Gyro. Or maybe it's called a Gyro, I don't know how to say it correctly, but the main point is I got the platter version here, which is pretty good. But if you want to get yourself the real deal, you best be going street side, which is exactly what I did. The Gyro is the perfect food to buy and take out because of the great no-stimo to price ratio. And because of that factor, I've been buying these things all the time during my trip, but somehow when I finally decided to film one of these bad boys, the Gyro Maestro gave me the Meat Lovers edition. Usually these things got some tomatoes and onions inside, but this one seems to be pretty devoid. Nevertheless, that soft, warm pita combined with that char-grilled meat and a tzatziki was tasting pretty no-stimo. Scratch that, it was tasting real no-stimo. So with as much dedication as Haydna of Scione, I kept biting down through that gyro, or should I say gyro, to my badass heart's content. Which brings us to our next authentically Greek food, a little thing called the Greek honey and yogurt. Now, I've eaten myself a whole lot of Greek yogurt in my day and a whole lot of honey. Still, something about the yogurt in this country is just on a whole other level, and it's so easy and cheap to attain. But as far as that honey is concerned, let's just say it's to die for. I'm telling you here, people, I don't know what they feed those bees in Greece, but something about that honey is so sweet and so thick. And I must admit, I was feeling like Hadrian after eating all that honey, because with each passing bite, I was building more and more of an appreciation for Greek culture. I was finding any excuse I could get to dip into that Greek honey, including these Greek pancakes. And as you can see, they got pancakes stacked on yogurt and honey stacked on more pancakes. I think they had those bees working overtime for this concoction because they got a whole lot of honey drizzled all over the place. And if that ain't a diabetic delicacy worthy of Dionysus, then I don't know what is. Anyway, if you want to chow down on some more Mediterranean munchies, then feel free to check out my previous videos. I got a Maltese food tour and I got a Balkan food tour, just to name a few. I got those links down below in the description box. And as always, thanks for watching this video, everybody. Why don't you leave a comment, let me know what you think.